Just as a disclaimer, we want you to know that some of the movies that we will be reviewing were shot in a different time and era where people of race and sex were not treated equally. We understand this and hope you do too. The movies or anything that happened on the sets are not the views of this podcast or what this show is intended to be all about.
Exactly. And we want to give due diligence in presenting the movie and not the views of the cast or directors or anyone involved. But we also feel it's necessary to let the audience know some of the background information to get a feel for what was happening at the time of shooting the film. Again, we hope you understand that we do not agree with everything that went on, and we just want to give out the information. And with that being said, hope you enjoy the show.
There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema podcast, our Twilight Zone series. This is episode 14, Third from the Sun. I'm your host, Jimbo, and once again joined by my Twilight Zone co-host, Mr. Eric Cummings, better known as ADZ.
What's up, everybody? How are we doing today?
Good, good. You know, we started this contest, and we gave the word last episode, the first one, so let's go ahead and throw the go ahead and give us a word for this episode, Eric, for the contest. We're going to do it right here at the beginning.
Okay, you want me to come up with a word from this episode?
Give me a word for
this.
Just give me a word for the contest right here. You're on the spot.
You threw this one at me, and this is kind of my deep dive. So I'm gonna. You threw this one. Threw me a curveball.
I threw you a Terrence question right here at the beginning.
Right, exactly. I'm gonna go with the word telephone, and I'm gonna explain that later. But the word telephone will be the magic word for this episode.
Magic word is telephone. So remember to send that to me at the email at thetragedyofcinema.com or at gmail.com with your name, and that we will have the drawing on October 31st sometime after 8 p.m. So Eric, let's go ahead and start talking about this episode. Take it away.
Okay. The episode number 14, this is season 1, episode 14 of the Twilight Zone. It is entitled Third from the Sun. And it was directed by Richard L. Baer, and the teleplay written by Rod Serling. And it's based on, I have here in my notes, it's based on Richard Matheson. I don't really have a whole lot of information about Richard Matheson, but the original air date was on January 8th, 1960. All right, January 8th, 1960.
Right, so here we see Richard Matheson. He wrote another short story that this is based on. So
okay.
I'd like to try to find a book or something of his short stories. I think that would be interesting to see, read the actual short stories and see how it progressed into the actual teleplay of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and jump into the cast real quick. Fritz Weaver plays Will Sturka. Fritz was in Creepshow, where he played Dexter Stanley. And he was also in the Thomas Crown Affair, and he played John Reynolds. Edward Andrews plays Carling. He was in 16 Candles.
Yes.
As Howard.
Grandpa.
He was also in Gremlins as Mr. Corbin. He was also in Tora, 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 where he played Admiral Harold Stack.
Yep.
So this guy, I like this guy, man. This guy is pretty good. Just his look, you know what I mean? It's just he kind of reminded me of what was it, Roger Ebert. He kind of looks like Roger Ebert, you know what I mean, the famous reviewer. John Maros was Jerry Ryden. Denise Alexander as Jodie Sturka. Laurie March as Eva Sturka. And Jean Evans as Anne Ryden. So the synopsis for this episode is: two men who work for the government plan to steal a spaceship and take their families away before a nuclear catastrophe happens. So there you have it. So two guys working for the government and a nuclear war is about to break out. What could go wrong? I mean, it is 2020 right now, so anything's possible, I guess. Right. So Eric, let's go ahead and take it away.
Okay, so we open this particular episode. Looks like it's in a gated area, top secret type of government facility, and there are guards that are checking people's IDs as they exit the facility, maybe on a lunch break or something. But William Sturka goes out to have a smoke, and this eerily weird character named Carling approaches him. He just plays the part perfectly. He's kind of He's kind of a creepy guy. He's always lurking in the background, and we'll see that as the episode goes along. But he's kind of like, I don't know, a government. Maybe he's a paid government informant. We don't know, but he's always got his ear to the ground. He's always trying to investigate. He's always prowling around all the time throughout this entire episode. But so we meet Gurkha, and they have a conversation, and we come to discover that there's a nuclear holocaust. Again, just another running theme throughout the Twilight Zone. A nuclear holocaust is imminent, and it's going to happen in about 48 hours or so that they're guesstimating, and it's going to obliterate millions and millions of people. And boom, what's the line? Boom, whoosh, whammo, or whatever is exchanged in this initial conversation. And so these two are talking, and again, just Carling is just so creepy, and he's, I don't know, it's just kind of hard to explain. He's just a weird guy. And so that scene ends. And go ahead, Jimbo. Did you want to say something regarding that scene?
Well, I thought he always kind of looked like Boss Hogg in his all white suit. That's what he looked like.
Yeah.
So yeah, he kind of has the remember the old famous announcer for the Cubs, Harry Carey. He kind of has the Harry Carey glasses on too.
Yep, he does. And this is interesting. Like when we change scenes, we have like some mid narration too, which. I think that was only used in a few of the episodes, but Rod Serling comes in and he sort of describes the atmosphere and the mood, and then we go to the next scene we go to is Sturka's house. Well, actually, we go to the old commercial break, and then we come back, and we're in Sturka's house, and he's I think he talks with his daughter, whose name is Jodie, right? So he's kind of in distress because of this conversation that he's had with Carling, and he's sort of pacing around his house, and he's listening to some music, I think, on the phonograph, the old style phonograph, and then in comes his daughter Jodie, and she tells him she wants to have a dance with him, but Sturkis, he's tired, he's got a lot on his mind. And so Jodie sits down and she starts asking him, is this something serious, or, what's going on, Dad? And she starts to ask him about his job. And, he tells her, well, she says, is it hard work creating all these bombs? And he's obviously like maybe a nuclear physicist or something like that. And and he sort of tries to absolve himself of any, wrongdoing. Because here's this guy, he's making all these deadly weapons, but he explains to his daughter, there are hundreds and thousands of people who work on small individual parts that make up these atomic bombs, and it's man who distorts and turns everything that the scientists make these things for good, or they make these discoveries and they're to be for the good of humankind, but in man's twisted humanity and his evilness, that they subvert it. They make it into something bad, and he sort of tries to absolve or ease his conscience, maybe, that here's the fact that he's working on these atomic weapons that can wipe out millions of people, but he's not the only one. It's a team of people. Go ahead, Jimbo.
Right. It's not just the pressure's just not on him. It's actually on the whole entire team. Even though he may have a tiny thing, there's thousands of people that touch this everything, so it's not all on me. And his daughter, all she's worried about is she's got a hot date that night.
Yeah.
she's got a date. And he's like, no. I want you to stay home and play cards. And she's like, but Dad,
right.
Typical teenagers, we all have them.
Yeah, I can definitely.
So go ahead, Eric.
I can definitely relate to the teenage daughter thing, and being upset if she's asked to break a date, but Jody concedes. And I mean, just the idea that here's his friend Jerry, and he says, "Oh, he's got all these great stories. You got to be here when he comes over and tells the stories." And she's kind of like, "Oh, all right, I guess if I have to." She could you can tell that she's upset that she has to break her date. But the whole reason behind Sturka he wants all of his family in the house because we're going to find out later that they've got a plan. And the plan is, as is later revealed, that they are going to escape their planet that they're on. They're going to escape their environment. And they're going to. This friend Jerry that's coming over, we discover that he's like a test pilot guy, and he knows how to fly this top secret spaceship that they know about, and they're going to escape this Holocaust. Jerry, his wife Anne, and the Sturkas are all going to. They have a plan. They have a way to get out of this. But at this particular point, let me back up. He's going over. He tells his wife there's like a bedroom scene where they go up, and he's standing in front of the mirror, and he has to tell his wife all the things that are going on about this huge Holocaust that's about to take place, and that his plans for exactly that, to get their family out of harm's way. And so after that, we fast forward, and Jerry is, greeted by Jody at the front door. This particular friend to Jerry, the test pilot, has come over to talk to Sturka, and so we meet Jerry for the first time. And Bill comes down the stairs, Sturka comes down, and they have a conversation. And Jerry wants to talk about, their plans for escape. And Bill stops him right in the middle.
But he's right. But the whole reason they went downstairs is because he wanted him to fix his pocket watch.
Yeah,
remember, it's like this watch. He's like, it stopped again.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. Like, well, he's like, and he's like, let me take it. He's yelling a little bit louder so his wife will overhear him. Hey, let me go downstairs, or if anybody's listening, hey, because you got a feeling that this is like a government-controlled area, like there could be bugs anywhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's got this pocket watch. He's like, yeah, let's go downstairs. He's like, I can see what we do, and he goes downstairs, he shuts the door, and what's his name? Jerry's like getting ready to start talking. He's like, wait a minute. He's like, I see what you got here. Your spring's broken. And he's like, I can take that. And he turns on a drill so to drum out the noise of anybody that may be listening or any bugs in there. And he's like, okay, now we can talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was one interesting thing. I noticed an interesting scene change. Yeah, after Jerry and Sturka have this conversation, Jerry just wants, like you just said, Jimbo, he wants to just blurt out what's going on. And he's like, no, let's go downstairs. Let's keep it quiet. Yeah. And they kind of make up the whole thing about the pocket watch, that he's going to go to the garage or workshop to fix Jerry's pocket watch. And so it's interesting, the scene change. You have them in the entryway, and then the very next scene, they're inside this workshop or garage. And so they sit down. Oh, well, before they sit down and Sturka starts working on the pocket watch, they have to go and turn on the drill press or whatever. They have to have that background noise exactly for what you just said, Jimbo. It's probably government housing because he works at a government facility, so everything's being monitored. So they begin to discuss the preliminaries of their plan while Sturka fixes his watch.
Right, and then this is where the creepy man comes in once again.
Yes,
because after he actually goes over, he actually does fix the watch though. He does. It wasn't working. He does get it going again, And they go over there, and he shuts the drill press down, and is like, well, you guys come over later for cards or whatever. And he goes upstairs. Well, as they leave or whatever, it fades to the window and there you see the creepy old guy, Carling, looking in there, just got that look on his face.
I have a question for you. If Sturka and Jerry are literally side by side talking with a drill press going in the background, and Sturka is outside of a window, how can he hear their conversation when they're almost like mumbling? I know it has to be for continuity for the episode, because that's how Carling knows where to find them later in the episode at the test site or the launch pad or whatever. But there's no way that guy could hear all that stuff, their conversation. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, okay. Well, let's think about this. This is the government.
True.
They could probably put a little microchip in some of the clothing. Maybe they even implanted them with a chip or something back then. You know what I mean? I know it's early 1960s or whatever. But I mean, okay. I'm going to give the spoiler away to the ending of this right now. So just so you know where we're going. They're not on Earth, okay? So well, I know, but I'm just saying. I told you I was giving away the spoiler right now, but what I'm saying is, so their technology could be advanced further than what ours is. Like what we're talking about right now. We're thinking in our terms of technology. We're not thinking about what their technology is somewhere else. As you will, I'm sure, given away by the answer for the question or the one-word question. I know where you're going with that too, because that's a very interesting point. For the word telephone, as you will see later on in this episode. But my question was the telephone. Did Jerry already call to come over right now, or is that later? The telephone.
I don't know that Jerry ever calls in this episode. I can't recall.
Does he not call? Okay.
But like his boss calls on the telephone.
That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, he calls on the telephone.
Yeah.
But the next
scene, okay, before we get into, I don't want to give anything away. I already gave away a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? So let's just go back to where we were. So we got the creepy guy looking in the bottom, and then we go to the next scene.
The next scene is the couples are gathered, and Jody is there, and they're playing cards. They're having a card night. I think I neglected to mention that earlier. That's why Jerry and their friend Ann, the couple, were coming over to play cards. That was earlier in the scene. That kind of sets the stage for later on. But really, it's just an excuse to have this meeting. So Jerry has a huge diagram that he pulls out on a piece of paper, and he's talking with Sturka, and he's explaining to him that this other planet is that they're going to go to for safety is like 11 million miles away, and they're discussing the particulars of their journey and all the things that that will be necessary. And he said, Jerry tells Bill that yes, it's populated, but they have a language that's not dissimilar to ours, and so and they talk about the spacecraft or whatever, and then lo and behold, there's a knock or a ring on the doorbell, and who is it? It's Carling again.
Right, but
this guy shows up.
But this is where. While they're talking, I think they tell their wives to go get cake and something, don't they? Because they tell them to go get cake or whatever, and then they start drawing on a napkin or a piece of paper. Remember, they're drawing out like the map. But hey, well, here's the spaceships right here. We gotta go through the fence here. They got all these diagrams on the back of this or on this napkin or whatever. And as the ladies go, because they even take the daughter into the kitchen or whatever to help. What was it, lemonade and cake? Is that what it was?
Yeah, they're making. They have lemonade and cake, and then the doorbell. Like I said earlier, the doorbell rings, and in comes Carling, and so of course they offer him. They ask him if he wants cake, and he says, "No, I just want lemonade." And then he goes. Carling knows what's going on. He knows that these two are in cahoots and trying to, but he's really slimy in his approach, and he's trying to. Go ahead, Jimbo. You got something.
Right? How would he know? How would he know they were having lemonade? Because they never say lemonade.
Well,
if you watch the episode, I don't think they say lemonade. No. They ask him if he wants a piece of cake. He's like, "No, I'll just take lemonade." So that's what I thought that was really weird.
Yeah.
Unless I'm misremembering. Maybe they did say lemonade, but I think that also sets up to the thing of maybe it's bugged in the house. You know what I mean?
Could be. He enters, of course, and he asks all of these. He makes statements like, "Boy, it's a nice night. It's the kind of night you just want to sit on the porch and do nothing." He makes kind of these generalized statements letting you know that he knows what's going on, but he doesn't want them to know that he knows what's going on, and so he just he makes these series of creepy statements, which is why he plays the character so well. And he walks over to the table, and on that piece of paper that you mentioned earlier, it's flipped upside down, but there's like a glass table, and the camera shot is from underneath the table. And so you can see that diagram that Sturka and Jerry were just discussing.
Well, because they flipped it over because they seen him coming in, and on the other side has their running totals of who owes who what money for this card game, or how many points or whatever they're in the lead. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh no, he's gonna know that if he flips this paper over, he's gonna know their entire plan.
Exactly. There's a lot of tension there, and this is how my mind works. I could not figure out what kind of card game were they playing at the table, because they were just going around saying numbers, and I tried to figure out what card game that could have been that they were playing at the table, but I couldn't come up with anything.
Well, again, don't forget where they're at, so it might not be any game that you've ever heard of, right?
Could be. So this exchange, here comes the real dramatic scene, is when Carling goes for his pack of cigarettes because he asked for cigarettes, and the paper that we were just discussing earlier is right next to the cigarettes, and Carling looks, and it's a real dramatic scene, like he's going to pick up that piece of paper and then discover their plan, but then Jerry kind of puts his hand on it and starts writing out those totals for the card game, and then actually later Carling does pick up the paper that he's writing on, but only on one side. He doesn't flip it over and see the plans. He just looks at the running totals for the card game of who owes who, how much money or whatever.
I wonder if it was on Penn Station napkins like you just showed me.
Could be. I was demonstrating.
I know you were. He's over here doing all kinds of motions and everything, and he picked up these napkins, and it was Penn Station napkins written on the backside that I could see, not him. So.
Yeah. So here I'm at that scene right now, and it's a long pause, and like Carling is staring at those running totals, and I mean the audience probably was on the edge of their seat, as I know I was. And then you think their plan is going to be found out, but he doesn't. He puts it down. Carling doesn't discover the paper with all their information on it, and then so they exchange a few more unpleasantries, I guess. Like the people, the couples, they just can't wait for Carling to leave. I mean, they're just on edge completely. So Carling decides he's finally going to go home, and the people in the room finally, they breathe a sigh of relief. And then he goes out onto the porch and talks to Sturka, and he asks him, do you believe that there are other people on these other stars out here? He explains that the stars are out. And so they have a conversation, and Sturka says, yeah, I believe there are other people on other planets. And so they have this little mini conversation, and then it closes with Carling saying, well, I guess I'll see you tomorrow, like at work. And Sturka says, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Like, hurry up, get out of here so we can get out of here, so to speak.
Right.
And so once the creepy guy leaves, they tell Jody their plan, the daughter. It's finally revealed to her that they're leaving. They're going to avoid this nuclear holocaust. And so then we come to the infamous scene where the boss calls, and the boss calls Sturka and tells him he needs to come in immediately tonight. And we see this futuristic contraption. Now I thought maybe this was a prop for this particular episode. And what I'm speaking of is the telephone that Sturka calls on. This was the craziest looking telephone that I've ever seen, and it turns out that it actually was a real telephone during that era, and it was made by the Ericsson company. It was a one-piece plastic telephone, which is our secret word, created by the Ericsson company of Sweden, and it was marketed through the second half of the 20th century. It was first commercially marketed as a telephone with the dial and the handset as a single unit. If you're familiar at all with those old style telephones, the rotary phones, they were two pieces. There was the rotary part and then the earpiece that sat on the rotary part. Well, this was all in one piece, and you can see it when Sturka picks up the phone that the rotary part of the phone is on the bottom, and it's all one big plastic piece. And I just thought that was really interesting and kind of did a deep dive on that.
Right. Well, another thing is it's actually an Ericophone is what it's called, Ericofon. It was the first time on TV to emphasize the presumably futuristic setting of a story. The Swedish design phone was largely unavailable for use in the U.S. because AT&T still maintained its monopolistic control on all telephone equipment, and they did not allow anything but AT&T designed equipment for household use back then.
Interesting. I know also one other little tidbit that there is, it's on display actually in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. There's a couple of those Erico, is that what you call them? Erico telephone.
Ericophone or phone.
Yeah.
I guess FON. It's Swedish, so
yeah.
Maybe we'll have to do a road trip.
Maybe. I just thought that was really cool. I'd never seen one before ever, and I thought maybe it was just created as a prop for this particular episode, but apparently it was a mass-produced phone in the later part of the 20th century.
Right. And you think maybe that's where they bugged their house?
Possibly. Could be.
Right.
All right. So we go back to our episode here. We did a little highlight on a small little object there in the episode. So we go back to our episode. So he receives the call from the boss, and the boss tells him he needs to come in immediately that night. And so after he hangs up, Sturka hangs up with his boss. He says, "Man, everybody's like, we gotta get out of here. We gotta leave now." So they pack up and they drive out to the emergency test site area, the gated area. And one other thing of note is the noise from the car. To me, in this scene, when they're driving to the test site, it sounds like the Batmobile of the 1960s, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, but you got to remember the Batmobile that didn't even come out till '66, so this is actually before the Batmobile.
So maybe they used the sounds from this episode and put it into the 1960s Batman series. Who knows?
That's what I'm saying. Right.
So they're at the gate. We see a flashlight flashing. Jerry thinks it's his friend that he's kind of paid off, the guard that's going to let him in. But as this particular person comes closer, we see that it is Carling. This guy will not go away. He is like a disease. He's just always lurking around. So they're just like, oh no, our plan is ruined. Carling, this informant government official or whatever he is, he's got his pistol drawn, and everyone in the car, the ladies in the car are all scared, and Jerry and Sturka are, they're scared. So they have a conversation. Sturka's not going to let them leave the planet. He's going to stop their plan. So, Carling comes out, and through a series of events, there's a scuffle, which I thought that was a pretty cool fight scene. Like, once I think it was Jody, she like swings the door open to the car, and it hits Carling, and then he kind of doubles over, and then Sturka jumps over the roof of the car and strangles Carling while Jerry's like punching him or holding him. And Jimbo, do you have something?
Well, he had a gun.
Yeah.
Carling has a gun. Yep. So that's when they opened up the car door or whatever, and it was his wife or whatever, hit the gun out of his hand. Yep. He lost the gun. You know what I mean? So then they basically knock out Carling and take the gun.
Yep.
And they just leave him laying there, and they just go open the gates and they just drive on through.
Yep. They drive on through. They go to the spaceship, and then they're like, I guess it's a spaceship. It looks like a flying saucer, And they drive up, and then they take out a couple more guards that are guarding, and then there's like a loudspeaker that comes over, and the voice is saying, they've got I can't remember what it was.
They got an unidentified vehicle or unauthorized vehicle on the runway, basically.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And so they run up the stairs to the spaceship, and they kick a few guards and policemen.
I I like the strings holding the ramp. Do you see the little strings? There's like little fishing lines holding the ramp.
Yeah, that is good. So then we're on board the vessel here, and then it was interesting to me, just from an audio sense too, like the sounds that the spaceship is making sound very similar to the 1960s Star Trek, the Gene Roddenberry, like all of the bells and whistles from the computers coming off. That was interesting too.
Well, actually, the background noises heard aboard the ship in the final scene were reused in Star Trek. It is definitely reused. Yep.
Okay. So Jerry and Sturka, they are having this conversation, and Jerry tells him, we're going to the planet. It's the bright one to the right, and he says it's the third one from the sun, and they call it Earth. And then that's the big twist. That's the reveal. The whole episode, you think that they are escaping Earth, when in fact they are escaping some other planet, and they are trying to get to planet Earth for safety. And that's the big twist that's revealed at the end.
Right. So, a few other little notes that I have. This episode makes use of the very, very heavy use of the Dutch tilt camera technique. If you notice the camera angles, they're always tilted at a certain way or whatever. Another thing about the Erica phone, it was missing the numeral number 9. This wasn't a prop error. Some models of the Erica phone Cobra had the word code entry where the 9 would have been. One of the most interesting things I found about this episode is that the painting from the Twilight Zone, The Midnight Sun, in 1961, can be seen hanging on the wall behind the table during the card game. So that painting is set for a future episode of the Twilight Zone that will cover, I think, season 2, or season 3.
Okay.
I think season 2, though. In an interview years later, Fritz Weaver described his experience on the show as a baptism by fire. The actor was unfamiliar with acting in front of cameras, having spent his career in the theater. During filming, the director had to guide Weaver along with the use of props and appearing more naturalistic in his performance. So he was more of a theater actor than he was an actual actor. The 4 circular sector-shaped lights on the ship's control panel were used again in episodes I Shot an Arrow into the Air, which I think is the next episode, one of the next couple episodes we'll cover. The elegy and the people are alike all over. Also, the shape would be used for the Pac-Man character in the 1980 video game.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. We already talked about the Erica phone. During the closing scene, the main characters are depicted aboard a spaceship, a reuse of the ship created for Forbidden Planet movie in 1956. Inside the navigation globe is the same as that of the ship, while the gauges shown in the background are taken from the power dials of the mysterious machine that Dr. Morbius used to create the monsters of his ID in the same film. In Richard Matheson's original short story, the character of Carling is absent. He's not even in there. He was added to the TV version to add a villain to the episode. In the original story, the two families simply just drive to the launch pad, board the ship, and they leave. I was like, well, that's just kind of boring.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, definitely Carling was an important piece in that episode for sure.
Right. This episode aired a few years after Princeton University student Hugh Everett III wrote a thesis famously arguing that there were multiple universes. Also called the Many Worlds Theory, Everett's work inspired several science fiction stories about parallel Earths. Sturka's friend, Jerry Ryden, said the destination they're going to take the spacecraft to is 11 million miles away. From Earth, the distance to Mars is an average of 33 million miles, and Venus is 25 million miles, and both can be seen with the naked eye from the Earth in the night sky. The planet and or solar system Sturka is from would certainly be seen by the naked eye at only 11 million miles away from the Earth. So they would be able to see where they were going. So as good as as good as Serling was about the stories, the distance or the thought out plan was not, he didn't have all the information, but to do what he did was still fantastic.
Right. And
the title of this
sorry, to say that the space program was basically in its infancy at this point. So yeah, all those numbers and all those calculations, they're not going to be 100% perfect. We saw that in the episode before when the XJ-20 was 900 miles in 30 hours or whatever. So those numbers might be off a little bit, but you got to give it to the guy to even create and think of some of these things. Is just is awesome. And even if they're not dead on, scientifically, still, I mean, you got to give them a little latitude there.
Right. The title of this episode obviously refers to Earth in its order revolving around the sun. Earth is number 3rd in the solar system after Mercury and Venus. And Earth is described as being in a different solar system 11 million miles away. The closest solar system to Earth is approximately, are you ready for this? 24, the number 9, the number 9, and then 11 zeros after that. So I'm going to call that a Cuisinart. I don't know what it is, but that's a big number that I don't know what it is. Very, very far away. So, Eric, what do you think of this episode?
I thought it was, again, probably not top 5, but the thing that made this episode so great, again, was the twist at the end. Because I watched it and I didn't pick up on the cues at all. So when it came to the end, I was just like, my mind was blown. And I think that was the intention throughout. And then just the anticipation and being on edge, wondering if their plan was going to be discovered and it was all going to be blown up in a sense before the blow up. Their plan was going to be blown up. So that was I thought it was pretty good though as far as the twist and everything.
Well, I mean, I started to pick up on it about the time when he's like, yeah, I think there's people out there, and I think that their language is kind of the same as ours. They speak close to the same language. I was like, well, I think I kind of know where this is going, even though you still think they're on Earth, But, the whole futuristic setting, the government-controlled stuff, the telephone. One thing that I noticed is the contrast in the clothing. You had Carling, who was always wearing that bright white, colors, and the other people kind of had like dull colors, you know what I mean? So you could tell the contrast in their characters. I thought was really well done. The camera angles, the whole card table scene was some intense stuff right there, man, because I was just waiting for him to flip that over, you know what I mean? But, then again, if Carling already knew, then maybe he just wanted to put fear into him and say, you better rethink this plan before you go through with it because I know what you're doing, you know what I mean? And especially when he was looking down through the basement window, I call it the basement window. I don't know what it was because he kind of had to look up. It was kind of, he knew what was going on, and you don't know how he knew what was going on, but you knew it was going on. And I think it was the guy that what was his name, Jerry, the one that had flown. He's like, I've only flown it once, and it was only for a short amount of time. I've done stuff like this before. He's like, there is no prototype, if I could get up there, I might be able to drive it. He's like, I don't know. And then, then they went ahead with their plan anyway because I would rather go up there and take our chance here than die in a nuclear fallout or nuclear catastrophe or whatever's going to happen, because they weren't shy about there going to be a nuclear problem there, because even Carling was like, look, millions of people are going to die. You know what I mean? So very well done. I like how, the future, the telephone and all that, you're like, hey, is this the first cell phone? Because you didn't see any cords hooked to it, you know what I mean, when he pulled it up. And I just think it was really well done. Very, very entertaining. As most Twilight Zone episodes are, it held my attention.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I think this episode's coming to a close. Thanks again for joining us. Don't forget the secret word. I'm not going to tell you what it is again, but it is somewhere in this episode, and be on the lookout for future ones. It could be at the beginning of the episode, the middle of the episode, in the middle of the cast, after the credits go, or after the bumper music at the end. It could be anywhere in here, so you'll never know where it's going to be. So with that being said, this episode's coming to a close, and that's a wrap. And Eric?
And cut.